Thank you all for being here today for our McMinnville Business Leader Quarterly Forum. This is hosted in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. John Olson, unfortunately, could not be with us today. He is at a conference for our chamber executives. But we do have the pleasure of having the board chair, Mark Siegel.
Thank you.
So
Thank you all for coming.
Great. Thanks for being here. Also want to thank Chaput, Paul Davis, for all of his help and his team's help in getting this venue set up for us. We couldn't do it without our friends at Chaput, and also to First Federal for sponsoring the quarterly forums. So today we're here to talk about the airport. Just one note for those of you that are participating on Zoom and those that are sitting next to this screen in the back here, it's super sensitive. So if you don't want the world to know your side conversation, just be aware, it will pick up your conversation there. We are super excited to invite this panel to talk with you today. We have 6 members on our panel today, and I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. We'll start off with the folks that are in the room. We've got 2 that are participating online. So we'll start here with Geoff.
Okay. Hi all. My name is Geoff Hunsaker. I'm the Public Works Director here at the city. In addition to the airport being part of Public Works' portfolio, we also have facilities, operations, wastewater, engineering, streets, stormwater, all that. So we have quite a breadth in public. Oh, and emergency management.
Just a few things.
Yeah.
Grayson?
Hello, good morning. Grayson Barrows with Precision out at the airport. Precision is an operator, maintainer, operator of unmanned systems worldwide. My role here is under the Airport Commission, Vice Chairman with Mark here, and pilot. How do you know if there's a pilot in the room? Don't worry, he or she will tell you. I just did, so there you go.
Hey, Mark Fowle. I'm the current chair of the Airport Commission, former fighter pilot, retired airline pilot.
You did it.
I did it too. there I was. Okay. And my role with the commission lately has been with Patty on the committee to create the master plan for the next 20 years. So that's kind of where my expertise lies for this panel right now.
I'm Arthur Chaput with Business Oregon, the state's economic development department. Not a pilot or an engineer or a city planner or any of those fancy titles, although I'm interested in airplanes and interested in the businesses that exist and thrive around airports and the jobs and opportunities they create.
Thank you. We also have 2 guests that are joining us online. Willy Williamson, would you like to take off your mic and speak to the group?
Yeah, hi everyone. Willy Williamson here. I apologize for not being in there in person. A little bit of situation here, but anyway, I'm the airport administrator. I've been overseeing the master plan for the past 2 years now, and we're coming close to an end on it. And yeah, I'll be happy to talk to anybody about master plan and how to grow business at the airport, etc. So thank you. Thanks to everybody for being here.
Thanks, Willy. And last but not least, we've got Mark Zimmerman from Phenix Solutions. Mark?
Good morning. As Patty said, my name is Mark Zimmerman. I'm one of the co-founders of Phenix Solutions. We are co-located at Northwest UAV's campus. Phenix developed a large remote piloted aircraft. Just to give you an idea of size, it's similar to the air medical helicopter that flies in and out of the McMinnville airport. So it's a fairly good sized remote piloted aircraft. And I'm from the local community. I'm a graduate of Perrydale High School a few decades ago. And no, I'm not a pilot.
But a CPA, which is really important, CFO. Really?
Retired CPA. You gotta say.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, I'll make up for that.
All right, thank you for joining us today. We've got a few questions for our panel to kick things off today. And just to frame kind of the big picture of where we are, maybe to throw out to the group, why is our airport master plan important for the future of our community? And maybe Willy and Geoff, if you would share with us, what is a master plan and how does it help our airport?
You want me to go first, Geoff?
Yeah, go for it, Willie. You take the technical side of things.
Okay, so the master plan is a master plan for the airport. It is very specific, and the idea of it is it gives the FAA and the city a tool for planning into the future. We do this to make sure that we know how the runways and taxiways are going to grow, what kind of development areas there are that are going to be compatible with the airspace. You know, you have various sloped surfaces coming out from the airport and the runway, and we want to make sure that everything is compatible there, as well as stuff that's outside of the airport boundary. But it looks at you know, exactly where everything is, what the conditions are, and also the airport. Well, the master plan portion looks at the futures for the types of aircraft, the quantity of operations, and that type of thing. And then the layout plan, which is actually the graphic representation, which is similar to what you have on the board there right now. It shows the technical layout of everything, and we do this to make sure that we don't close up any areas, like build something in the way of accessing another section of the airport. And we also look at it for what areas are going to be used for aeronautical activities and what areas can be used for non-aeronautical activities. And
Thanks,
yeah.
Geoff, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, so the airport master plan is very much a requirement of the FAA, making sure that we're looking at growth of our types of aircraft at the facility. What we're doing is going to meet safety requirements, instrumentation, all that. What it isn't, it's not an economic plan, which is something the city is going to be taking on next year. And with an economic plan, we would look at, okay, now that we have that baseline with the infrastructure, what can we do to take advantage or help development come in with things like tourism, manufacturing, industrial, commercial, all that? How do we take advantage of grants? How do we leverage those different kinds of growth at the airport? And so that's a plan the city is going to be taking on next year. Once we have this baseline, what we need to have for the FAA to operate an airfield, what can we do to spur development of the rest of the property and make sure it's done safely in a way that works with the aeronautical uses at the airport?
Could you touch just one shortly on how the airport is funded? So it is a city airport, but what is unique? How do we pay for runway improvements and lighting and radar and
right? So the airport has its own enterprise fund, which means it's self-sustaining. It gets money from primarily leases of air property, but it can also through fees, fuel flowage, things like that. And then we also get a lot of money from the federal government, the FAA, for development of the airfield. So usually on projects that would do a runway or a taxiway, the FAA is going to pay 90 to 95% of that project, and we're going to pay like 5% of it. And so things like the airport master plan are very important because we have to make sure we're meeting those FAA regulations so that we're able to bring in that FAA money. But primarily the way we make our money for operations is off land leases. No general fund money comes into the airport, and no money the airport makes can go back out into the city's general fund.
I do want to add one thing. I think it's important to note that the FAA grant money is for infrastructure, runway, taxiway, lights, instrumentation, that type of thing. They do not, they typically, there are some rare cases, but they typically do not fund the development of a terminal or anything above the ground, any improvements, fuel farm, that type of thing.
Great. Any other panelists have you?
I think these guys have done a great job of explaining the technical side of an airport master plan, but I think one sometimes overlooked component of it is this sort of communication we're doing right now, making sure that the community and the airport users are on the same page about what the airport's going to be in the future. There's a famous story out of Chicago about a small airport that was built on an artificial island in the lake, and it was called Negus Airport. General Aviation, they have Chicago O'Hare for passenger service, but this was popular with sport pilots and with corporate travelers. But the city leadership had a different vision for what that land should be. They wanted it to be a park. And in the middle of the night in 2003, Mayor Daley sent excavators out to cut big X's in the runway and make it unusable. It was a big scandal, and the FAA fined Chicago a significant sum of money and has since raised the fines, I think about 10x, to prevent any future cities from doing that. And I think today Chicago misses that airport. They have a lot of corporate headquarters in Chicago, and those companies used to fly in and out of Vegas regularly, and today they are having to go through O'Hare like the rest of us, with TSA and the rest. I think they missed that airport, and I think that was a failure on Chicago's part of communicating the way we're doing right now about what the airport can be and how it interacts with the community.
I'll add to that. If you're kind of aware of what's going on around in Portland, some of the development that's been happening, like say around Hillsgrove or even around Aurora, they're getting to the point where there's noise complaints or various other structures that are in the way. That's kind of why the airship moved here, because our performance box was not hindered by a lot of the buildings and or noise complaints or safety concerns that may have happened. So that's something that where we can kind of take advantage of the fact that we haven't gotten those restrictions yet. And we can build the infrastructure around there that can support businesses and various aspects of that without those restrictions coming in. One of the things that we've kind of discussed with the master plan was infrastructure, like one of the things that's coming up is electrified airplanes, and with that short range like air taxis, where somebody doesn't want to be driving a PDX all the time to get on a plane and go somewhere else. Sometime in the future, there might be some sort of company that sets up here with an electric air taxi that can take you there over all the traffic in Portland to get you to PDX, get you to Eugene or wherever the larger aircrafts go to. So that was something, incorporated in the master plan that we discussed was, electric infrastructure, as well as just normal aircraft fuels like Jet A and avgas. Also, strategic planning down the road for, maybe more corporate aircraft coming in as the wine industry continues to build and continues to build. We do get a lot of that traffic in here. And then with that increased traffic, maybe down the road, a tower type operation. If you're not familiar with the airport, it is an uncontrolled airport at this point. So it relies just on pilots coming in and talking on a unicom. But if you can get a tower in there, it controls it a little bit or better, and makes it a safer operation. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add as a user or anything, but
I'll get there.
okay.
So we've got business uses, we've got recreational pilot use. And we're in an enterprise fund where the users of the airport are paying for that expansion. So a lot of opportunity, and the current master plan has served the community very well for the last 20 years, and we're looking ahead for that next 20 years. Based on that forward vision, what kind of opportunities do you see for our airport in attracting companies to our community and creating great jobs, and things that the business community might be interested in as far as business attraction goes?
So,
I guess I'll try to jump ahead to one of our questions there, Patty, but, how did local businesses leverage the airport? The airport for Precision is kind of multifaceted. It is an opportunity for us to do our own business, right? We operate helicopters, corporate fixed wing. We have a shuttle service for AOG, other companies that have, and AOG is aircraft on ground. That's our fire bell, right? When somebody says aircraft such and such is AOG, that means the part needs to get to that airport ASAP because you're losing revenue on that aircraft. For most of you, that means you're sitting at the gate longer at PDX and you're frustrated and you're looking at your clock and you're probably not going to make your connection at the next airport. For us, that is lost the revenue with the U.S. government. Another avenue is the airport is a way to get our customers here to be able to service them. One component of our business is installing the latest and greatest technology or avionics into aircraft that are 60, 70, 80 years old in some cases that have old round dial instruments. And we put new glass panels in and autopilots that can fly these boxes in the sky and hands off, autonomous landings, everything, right? The more sophisticated of an airport we have, the more attraction to the area. We have a beautiful area. We have customers that come in from Idaho, Washington, Northern California, Colorado. Why? Because they look around the area and it's an adventure for them, right? We enjoy the journey and the destination as pilots and owners of aircraft. We have wine country. We have a museum across the street. Everybody loves coming to this airport. Any idea how good we have it out here? The culture and the environment is awesome. It is uncontrolled, as Mark says, which gives you some benefits and some non-benefits, right? Some might perceive it as unsafe. We got it. We're pilots. We know what to do. We know how to talk to each other with other student pilots and corporate jets coming in. It's like magic out there. It all just works really, really well. So how's the airport an instrument or how do we leverage it? It's almost a billboard for our company. Pilots, owner operators, local companies based in Aurora, air medical operators look at coming here because it's easy to get to, it's close by, and that airport is our billboard to bring in more business to this area.
I think there's a widespread misunderstanding about what an airport is. I think a lot of people think that it's just a place for wealthy people to park toys, and there's some of that, right? But that's far from the whole story. And you can see it just looking around our region. In Salem, you've got Garmin with 400 employees making printed circuit boards for their avionics equipment, and they're on the airport in Salem. They need to test that stuff. They make a new avionics equipment to retrofit an old aircraft. They need to put it in a sample of those aircraft and go test them. So it's important for them to be on the airport. Aurora has, I think, about 1,500 people working on the airport in various service and manufacturing businesses. Vans builds aircraft kits there. Columbia Helicopters retrofits and services helicopters there. So there's a lot of economic activity around these larger general aviation airports that has nothing to do with moving people, right? It's all about manufacturing things, servicing things. And then on the business recruitment side for McMinnville, it's important. It's an asset to have an airport here. No major company wants to build a factory someplace that doesn't have an airport nearby. When you start getting up into C-suite type managers, their time is really valuable, and TSA takes forever. And it's important for those companies to have an airport nearby, and it really matters. We see it, Zedcor sees it, and I'm sure Patty sees it on the recruitments that come through Business Oregon. You know, Acme Corporation is looking for a site for a West Coast factory, and they want it to be near an airport. It's really a significant asset.
Mark Zimmerman, you and I have talked several times about the advantages of our airport and what you envision out there. Did you want to share from your perspective at Phenix, the opportunities that?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So I view the airport as a strategic asset. But the other strategic asset that is located alongside, just south of the airport, is the FAA UAS unmanned aircraft flight range that is operated by Northwest UAV. And, you know, for us to be able to test fly our aircraft, we have to truck our aircraft into that flight range. And so I'm advocating that part of the master plan includes a corridor from the airport to that UAS flight range to allow us to manufacture aircraft, you know, have a physical space to be able to store them, but we need to fly them before delivering to customers. So we need to get into that UAS flight range without having to truck the vehicle, the aircraft, and this is a big aircraft, down the freeway, have the unloading and loading equipment in that flight range. You know, we need hangar space and things like that. So, you know, we have to go back and forth every day. And so those are two strategic assets that if they can be, you know, cooperative and collaborative, to me, it adds a tremendous value to the airport's strategic value.
We're already planning for you being there, Mark. The one thing that doesn't go into the airport master plan, though, is that corridor down to the test range. That is a separate thing because it's not airport, you know, that doesn't have to do with the airport exactly. And I've already been working with what's her name down the road there. We're working with the University of Alaska to look at what that's going to entail to get that corridor. And right now it's really just a matter of having about $30,000 to invest in that project, which I presently don't have. So we're working on it.
Yeah.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to help the community understand that what Chris Harris and Northwest UAV have down there and have put together is a draw to bring unmanned aircraft and the engineers, the software, high valued positions into the community. And, you know, we should support, you know, those two strategic assets and view them as collaborative and cooperative. And I appreciate the work, Willy, that you all have been doing already. We know that is in process and we're supporting it.
So yeah. A couple of things I'd like to add is this really is, well, in naval vernacular, it's a nugget. It just hasn't been shaped into the proper jewelry yet, the airport, that is. We have the capability of landing slightly larger aircraft design group 2 aircraft at the airport. The only reason we haven't got that certification is because Crookshank Road is 30 feet too close to the end of the runway. But there's a whole lot of ability to grow this airport. There's a whole lot of opportunity, as has been previously mentioned. Yeah, it just needs to be advertised a little bit better, I think. And
well, that's a good segue into talking about, we've got a slide up here and these maps that you also have in front of you, so it's easier for you to follow along. These are available on the city's website, on the airport's webpage. And they're part of the preferred alternatives for the airport master plan. What we're looking at here Would anybody like to describe this? Maybe Geoff, if you could kind of give us some points of reference on this map that folks would know. I think Grayson can point to his building on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's over here. There's an F-15 in front of one of those buildings, on the pedestal right directly across from the museum, and it points to the spruce juice, but you see that F-15 up there kind of top right. That's as you drive down, you see the F-15 buildings to the old Evergreen campus. Before and after that, the fire department's new building, or not new, but new to them building is on here as well, just to the, as you're looking at the paper, just to the right of that fighter jet or F-15. Behind that is the new development area. Patty, correct me if I'm wrong here, the orange buildings are existing, and the blue area is potential development for not necessarily larger aircraft. To me, that could sound scary, right? Not big, loud, scary aircraft, but more aircraft and to develop for businesses to come into this area to use as a tool or an avenue to get product or people to and from the middle.
So
Technically, we already land those larger aircraft here. We just don't have the FAA's sign off on it, but they're already flying in and out of here.
Right.
But looking at that map again, you look the big open area to the left, that's where the innovation center is, and that's what I'm really excited about, because as Willie says, a nugget, I look at it, the airport's a diamond in the rough, and going back to access for businesses, that whole innovation center is somebody that needs access to the airport with either a food defense or some other such agreement, or something where they need to access the ramp space. That's how we've developed the master plan, so that possibly a ramp could be built there, and then somebody from the innovation center could have access to that. And we built around some other things. If anybody are familiar with McGee Park there and how you normally get into it, that'll be shifted over to the west, and people will come into it that way. One of the other things that has been kind of a unusual point for a lot of airports is that if you've ever been out to McGee Park, you can kind of walk out of the park and walk right on the runways and taxiways if you want to.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. But there is a new fence coming in that's going to make it a little bit more secure, so that won't happen. So that's one of the things that we've been working on as a commission, and Willy's been working on as the manager as well. So the master plan, like I said, is put a lot of this kind of futuristic planning into onto paper, so that if somebody's got some business that wants to come in and take advantage of that, they'll be able to do that.
Arthur,
I think the future is bright. I think there's a lot of opportunities on and around airports right now. You've heard from Mark Zimmerman about what he's working on with heavy lift remote piloted aircraft. We heard a little bit about the potential for air taxis, which I think is real and serious. And there are probably a dozen companies right now that are working on designs for those air taxis, and they're going to have to be built somewhere, right? The FAA recently published a rule called Mosaic. Who knows what the acronym stands for, but the upshot of it is that pilots with light sport licenses will be able to fly larger and more capable aircraft than they have been in the past. And factories will be able to sell these aircraft directly to consumers. It'll open up the market, and I think there'll be more pilots flying more airplanes. And those airplanes are going to have to be built somewhere, right? We already have Vans over in Aurora that builds kits, and I'm sure that they will be selling directly to consumers now that Mosaic is published. They're going to make those aircraft somewhere, and I think there'll be startups and spin-offs from companies like Vans looking for a place to manufacture.
and quite a few suppliers that work for those companies
Right.
as well, so that
Right.
indirect benefit.
Long supply chains.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so speaking of Mosaic, what are some of the biggest infrastructure regulatory challenges that you think are facing our airport and the airport industry in general?
Might be a good one for Geoff or Willy. Take this one, yeah.
I mean, Willie kind of touched a little bit on the Crookshanks Road situation for part of our aircraft size designation, but that's something that's going to handle itself here not too long. ODOT wants to eventually close that intersection and make improvements to the intersection to the east of there with a new roundabout and everything. So something like that's going to handle. On the aviation side, we've got a really solid airport. There's not a lot of major infrastructure pieces we need on the airfield side. On the land side, you know, a big one is, you can kind of see it on the photo that's up now, is we need more ramp space in the central part of the area. We can, when we have corporate sized jets that are coming in that aren't based here, there's only so many places they can park right now. So we need to expand that ramp space to have more parking space for those kind of jets when they're coming in, fueling, sitting for the day while somebody with more money than I have goes out and checks out their wineries and makes sure they're all operating great. And then we have to do some expansion with, and we've already been talking with Matt Water Light about expansion with water, power, things like that we got to do to get out there. But we're working on the plans to get that to happen. There's no fatal flaws for infrastructure expansion at this airport. It's just natural growth that's going to happen. It'll be slow growth that happens as the city makes investments or ODOT makes investment, or it could be something that's a public-private partnership that could spur the growth going a little faster. For example, we'd love to have a new terminal building kind of thing. And city doesn't necessarily have the money to invest in a brand new terminal right now, but if somebody knows anybody that wants to do a great public-private partnership to get a new building out there, please contact me. I wouldn't mind talking about that. But so there's things we can do to make investment, and we're going to keep doing what we can on the city side to be prepared for businesses to make their investments. But we also want to make sure that we're able to leverage somebody that wants to come in and make some solid investments for a large facility as well.
The airport is kind of an interesting asset that really economic development, it touches a lot of different areas. As you're talking, I'm thinking a lot of tourism related industries that are impacted by airport.
Right, like there, and that really opens up things for us. Like there could be tourism grants that we could go out for that the state might have, or other agencies that we could possibly use to make investments, things like that.
Yeah, a couple things I'd like to add on to that is aviation. You know, you can do anything with an airplane or a helicopter or UAS that you can do with a truck, a bus, or a car. It's just a different mode of transportation, and this is like a miniaturized hub. The other thing I wanted to touch base on really quick is Mosaic. And Mosaic is modernization of special airworthiness certification. But it's a 719 page new rule that just came out. And one of the things that hadn't been mentioned yet is they wrote a whole set of certification for the electric vertical takeoff aircraft, for, you know, UAS for one thing, but also for the human carrying VTOL aircraft. And they've changed a lot of and rewritten a lot of pilot requirements and whatnot. It basically made it a whole lot easier to implement that into the airspace, which I think is really a good idea. As far as what else we need, ultimately we need infrastructure down to the south side of the airport, because we've got a lot of land down there. Got about 40 acres that can be developed into that purple area. Well, that purple area is 19 acres, but we can go all the way up to that green line, the green dashed line. And, you know, that's property that can be developed and whatnot. Right now, it is leased by Tower Farms, and they're using it for agricultural items, but ultimately that should be developed into either hangar spaces, something to manufacture or assemble aircraft, or pretty much anything like that doesn't need the front door of the airport. We call that the back door, where all the actual work gets done, right? So
Yep.
anyway.
Yep. That's a big opportunity. There's plenty of land out there, Willie. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I think we'll turn it over to the audience now, give you guys a chance to answer or ask some questions to our panelists and see if there's anything you'd like to know. Anybody have any questions? Mark?
Oh, quick one. In terms of auto vehicle access, as traffic increases, what about the highway?
Well, there's the 3-mile area plan that the city did with ODOT in the past, and that's really kind of what the future of that highway looks like. It calls for some things like overpasses and things like that over time. Obviously, it's an ODOT facility, so we got to work with them and talk to people at the state level about making investments there. ODOT's going through their whole thing right now, so they're pretty busy, but that's something that the city's been working on for over a decade now to make sure that we're able to have infrastructure investments in that area that will be able to handle increases at Innovation Campus and other growth in the area.
Great.
I can piggyback on that with to point to the corridor that they're talking about is so utterly important. And just historically as well, from having to bring aircraft in here, because I was part of the museum super early on, it is so expensive and crazy to try to do something. So if you're going to do that, that corridor is really key to be able to move those parts in the right way and do that kind of thing to create that innovation pipeline. So I would highly suggest everyone take a serious look at that and make sure that happens, because it's going to be critical, I feel like, just in the future pieces.
Yeah, we're very fortunate that Northwest UAV has established that fast range, and that Willy and Geoff are working with them to make sure that we can get that access. So that's really great.
And that'll cut down on the traffic, which was the original point. Sorry.
Yeah.
We can do that.
That's right. I just want to add to the traffic. So I'm Eric Cording. I'm the new president of the Oregon Air Show, and really excited. I've been here 2 months now, and I've heard a lot of history about what's happened in Hillsborough, how this show came about in 2019, and appreciate you making references to that. So just 2 thoughts in here. One is the air show will bring thousands and thousands of people to the airport who aren't necessarily understand why there's an airport here or any of those things. So from a publicity and a way to be able to partner with you guys to be able to help tell that story, as well as where a master plan is going and that aviation thing, I don't know where to start on being able to partner on something like that, but I think that's an important part that we can do as a air show to be able to help tell the public this story in a way that the public may not care about because they just drive by here. The second piece is, as we're at it really gets into a timing thing, as we're talking about changing the where we're going to go put things like the purple box on there, and it's like, okay, great. There are places at the Hillsborough Airport where the basically it's when you have the Blue Angels here, it's 12,000 feet long wide box by a 3,000 foot wide box, and we go lay it down on there. And if you're inside the box, we're going to go ask the people in those hangars that they have to be outside that box for 2 hours, and whatnot. So it's not an impossible thing to do. But when it was Costco in Hillsborough, you can't ask Costco to have their building closed for 2 hours. That's not a thing. So as we talk about, like, how does the air show lay on to this and be able to come be part of the community? Because as you look at additional spaces to be able to park aircraft here, wow, if these things existed in 2026, then you could park the Blue Angels here. But at this point, I need to go park them at Pang or somewhere else to be able to go do these things. But is from a timing perspective, when I don't know how late I am to party. How how to engage in this process to be able to go understand this from an air show perspective. To be able to come in and talk about I understand here's kind of the biggest piece that when the Blue Angels come, this is the biggest piece, and then everything is smaller than that to be able to put on a show. But what is the timing of this whole, multi-year plan?
Well, it's a 20-year plan, but right now, a lot of the stuff that's showing the blue facilities and things like that, that's like where we're hoping an idea where it could go, but it's not set in stone. Somebody comes in and tells me they want to make a $5 million investment in the airport.
Yeah.
They want to move Blue Box here to, okay, let's talk.
I've been in the fire department building. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
but it wasn't built for a fire department.
Absolutely. So, but let's talk. Come find me after. We'll
Okay.
exchange business cards and we'll have some chats.
Great. Thank you. And again, this is such a special area down here that I come from Seattle where they fly over a lake and we have all these other restrictions and whatnot. And this is just such a spectacular site that I would hate that we didn't say something in the beginning or my beginning of what's possible down here to be able to kind of help each other.
Yep. Sounds good.
I think Lee has a question.
Hi, I'm Lino. I'm your neighbor over at the Aviation Space Museum. And I'm very pathetic and embarrassed to admit I've never been across the road. And I'd rather not get into one, but most just to get to the point, we have actually identified a lot of energies in especially the education work we do and community engagement that we actually don't have the capacity to do that. Certainly, potentially, the Municipal Airport can, namely in engineering, hands-on training, career development, smooth flying, a plane, or UAV without concerning the airport in our activities. We're not allowed to watch rockets in first lunch. I don't know if there's anyone here, but I would love to know who I can talk to and then maybe get invited over to
There's plenty of people that would love to take you around.
I would love that.
We have an engineering department.
What?
We develop STCs.
City will talk about.
Can we arrange a community tour of some sort of these certain people? Because the more we know, the more we can promote. And I would love from a chamber perspective to get our community to have specifics that they love.
I think we could talk about something like that.
Yeah.
See what we can get on the calendar.
Yeah, Geoff said that we can talk. Heather's been arranging VIP tours for the mayor of various businesses around the community. We've got a form on there. And then also Mark is the chair of the Workforce Integration Network. And we are doing manufacturing days. So we're always looking for manufacturers that would be interested in doing tours for students and for the general community. So we will definitely work on getting folks out to see our airport. And as Eric pointed out, you got a great opportunity with the air show as well. Yeah. Hi. Oh, I think we got Ty and Exotic.
So I just want to Hi, Darby Fire District. I'm a pilot. Without getting too far into the weeds, what do you guys see maybe as the top 4 or 5 challenges that if we were in a public-private partnership opened up for terminal service? What are some of the challenges that the community and the city and the county and everyone involved in that might be facing for that opportunity?
Are you talking about the fire department perspective?
And no,
I think it can be done for the
just
community.
in general, some of the things that maybe all of us could glean from.
I think defining terminal,
Community, yeah.
yeah, defining terminal services is probably important. I don't think there's any future in which the McMinnville Municipal Airport has, regular passenger service, right? I don't think that you're gonna see Boeing 320s or Airbus 320s taking off and landing at McMinnville. You're not gonna have a TSA terminal, right? That's
Yeah, no,
I
that's
think
correct.
defining terminal service is probably.
Yeah, the
important.
FAA, we're within driving distance of Salem and Portland and whatnot, but the FAA wouldn't really look to have commercial service coming out of here. It just doesn't meet their metrics and the investments that would be involved in that. When I say a terminal, it's more of the place where the pilots and the people coming in to visit have a facility they can walk in. That's kind of their entry or gateway into the city.
More of so terminal, I hear terminal, I think of PDX. And at our level, it's an FBO, fixed base operations, where it's a small building, pilots, mechanics, the passengers come through, they use the facilities, they get in their car, and then they leave to go do their business, and vice versa. The more attractive that FBO is to primarily pilots, they drive that traffic through the airport, right? The passengers of these corporate jets, they have one mission. Airplanes, and even in my small little economic life, our airplane is our time machine. My kids understand we can get to Sun River in 20 minutes versus a 3-hour drive. Let's fly there, Dad. It's airplanes and helicopters are time machines, and those high net worth individuals want to get to this area. They don't want to fly into PDX and go back through security and back into security and, lose hours of their time. Time is money. That FBO building is the gateway to our town, and that's the first representation that they see. That's the first face of our town that they see as they come in. To answer your question, Ty, I think infrastructure is the first challenge. Right? If we talk about developing the south side of the airport or more ramp space, it's that infrastructure, power, and water to attract businesses in, because it's the first hurdle that they will have to face is that cost to develop that. After that, it's to make sure that this clean campus is promoted correctly and the right pieces of the pie are developed, so we're not, cornered in somewhere, right? So, it would have been nice to know that this company would have wanted to do a 100,000 square foot facility. So we're laying it out now as these pictures are perfect to make sure that we've got the right opportunity to lay everything out correctly as we grow. With the blank canvas right now.
And remember that the passengers entering and exiting from the airport are not just going to vacation at Sun River. It's worthwhile as an activity as that is, right? There are lots of users, and I'm thinking about Wilson Construction over at the Aurora State Airport, one of my favorite companies in the region. They install and service high voltage power lines all across the country. And they have, I think, 15 or 18 helicopters there, and they have 3 fast airplanes that can get their people out to these job sites anywhere in the country quickly. And that's important. You talk about time is money. If you have a power outage affecting thousands of people, that's significant money, right? And so it's important for this company to have an airport with a terminal or an FBO that they can use any time of day, rapidly, with very different size aircraft, different types of aircraft, very flexible base of operations. And it's not just for vacations, right? It's for all sorts of things.
I think the other thing you have to look at with the terminal is to make a terminal or FBO building that would actually be attractive and serve its purpose. Well, it gets difficult to have a return on investment unless you start using a level of floor space for other types of businesses. For instance, if you build a building and you have your FBO in there, and you have a section that has either a wine tasting room or a restaurant or some sort of a retail, I don't know, but you really need to look at options like that, and that's not really the airport into the business, that's the business into so just a thought.
Good point, Ellie. I think Abisha had.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Abisha with Send Forward, the regional organization serving Marion, Polk, and Yamhill counties for economic development. We focus on trade and sector business development. So I guess my question is probably mostly for Arthur. So thinking about the history of the Northwest in terms of the aviation and aerospace industry, we have a pretty deep history and pretty robust. And at the same time, and with innovation, right? It's still kind of leading the industries now. But at the same time, it seems like they can be this industry can be overlooked, not by you personally, Arthur, but by sort of the state sometimes, and by those of us that do this work. And as I'm hearing you talk, right, about your future plans for the airport, obviously public-private partnership for investment is really important. Industry participation and development is really important. So I'm curious, representing Business Oregon from the state, does the state have a strategy to support this industry? And if so, what does that look like? And if not, you see a future where they look to develop a strategy around this industry the way they have others.
No, we don't have strategy. Yes, we should have one. And I don't know that necessarily Business Oregon's, I'm not sure whose wheelhouse it's in, whether it's ours or the Department of Aviation, or maybe the legislature needs to set some policy. I'm not sure. But we're behind, for example, Washington State on the vertical takeoff air taxis, right? So Washington State has figured out a process for designating vertiports, they call them. So these are helicopter pads, basically some amenities and electric charging stations. So Washington State has a planning process. They've actually started building a few of these, I believe, because they see this industry coming and they wanted to have a home in Washington, and Oregon hasn't done anything like that yet. So there's a lot of room for better strategic planning.
This is Mark Zimmerman with Phenix. I want to double tap what Grayson said about the importance of the FBO, the appearance of it, and things like that. But also the other thing he said is that there needs to be a plan to execute the infrastructure, the power, the utilities, and things like that. Because for a business, and especially in a high growth business like UAF, it is going to be more like a light switch. We get a government contract, we got to start producing, and we don't have the time to, have the power brought in and have the water and other utilities brought in and the hangar space built. We're going to have to go fast. And I would encourage, some thought process to that of how that can be scaled and provide opportunity for, these new emerging businesses. The other thing I'd like to say is, I know you said that you don't expect 737s and Airbus 320s and stuff to land there. However, our aircraft is big, and there are going to be situations where bigger aircraft may come in for freight reasons or from a shipping and receiving. So I wouldn't totally discount it, although it's probably not going to be a high volume for the next 10 plus years.
I wouldn't be too sorry about the development where Oregon is versus Washington or other states on the high
Good to hear,
density.
Grayson. I appreciate it. Say that again if you want, anytime.
Because the metropolitan area is going to drive that, right? I have flown in New York City for high net worth individuals that just want to get out to Manhattan, or out of Manhattan and out to the island, right?
Yeah.
That's why I've flown in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where they got lucky. I think it was in the 70s or 80s, they had a big fire, and then they said, okay, any building over 7 stories tall have to have a helipad on top. Wow, how lucky was that, right? So you just look at these helicopters flying these airways in Sao Paulo, and that's the only way. At full speed at 120 knots, it takes you over an hour to get across Sao Paulo in a helicopter. You can imagine how long it takes to get across Sao Paulo in a car. From a security standpoint and a time standpoint, it's impossible. So look at other, what's New York City doing? What's Seattle doing? What is some international cities doing? Kind of piggyback on that. But really, at the end of the day, it's the high density areas that will drive that. I mean, TDX or Portland is not quite there yet to have that need. So I wouldn't apologize yet. Maybe in 10 years, right? There's a million people here, then that's the time.
So one of the things,
Go ahead, Willy.
one of the things that you mentioned is having the availability of a hangar and infrastructure. That the problem always comes down to the dollar. The airport doesn't make a whole lot of money on land leases. So we don't have money to just go out and build a structure and hope that somebody shows up. There are some ways to get around that. I've talked to Arthur, and thank you for talking to me on this, but there are ways around getting some funding. And Vancouver, we did a municipal bond to build 128 hangars. You know, that's just a for instance. But I agree that we need to look at that because there's a deficit of hangars available in the Willamette Valley. So, you know, I think all the airports are looking at the same situation.
Good, Pat. Yeah. Could I piggyback on Willy's comments? So, this came to light to me through a lease that the city was in the process of negotiation, a land lease, which was public record. And I believe Willy did some analysis on the land lease rates based on other airports. And my observation was I was shocked at how low those land lease rates were when you compare the airport lease rates to everything else out there in the world. And I think the same kind of formula applies to hangar space too. That lease rates per hangar seem to be awfully low too when you look at the cost of construction versus there's no return on investment for either a city or a private industry or a public-private partnership. So is that a true statement? And how do you overcome those historical low lease rates that don't motivate a developer to come out there and lease land and build hangars?
I think
We're
got
getting-
them
we're
fired
getting
up.
Especially when you talk about the deficiency in hangar space and the perceived expendable income of those people using those hangars.
Our industry has been backwards for so many years. Here's the analogy that I like to use. We all drive cars. You guys know, you ask whether you go to Steve's Automotive on 3rd Street or the dealership across the street at Armstrong. Do you know what you pay as a shop rate for your vehicle?
No clue.
No clue. It's over $200 an hour. I have a chainsaw. I take it, where am I? Over here to the steel. They charge me over $200 an hour to work on my chainsaw and my lawnmower. Do you know what my shop rate is to work on a $17 million helicopter? 145. Our margins are so small. And the industry's been backwards for so long. We're building that rate, but I can't go from $77.50 an hour to $250 an hour, which is where it should be, right? Because I can't go to Napa and buy a tool or to Snap-on and buy a specialty tool for $100. I buy a $5,000 tool that's been certified by the FAA, gone through where my engineers go, all of that engineering to say that it can work on this helicopter. I know it's backwards and I'm working to get that rate up. And I talk to other companies and sounds like collusion, but it's not. We're all in the same boat. Everybody in this area is between that 100 to 150 an hour rate. And if we increase that, the industry goes whoop, and it flips over and it goes away. So we're getting there. The hangar rates, it has one purpose. There's a rule out here that it has to be a flying aircraft inside a hangar. We don't let boats and cars in that hangar for a reason, right? It has to be with a flying aircraft. The storage facilities in town, yes, make higher rates, but there's other uses for that land.
And
Extra space.
And that really goes back to the creation of the airport back in the 40s. So the city had agreements with the federal government that we would buy land. They would develop an airport as long as we leased that land for aeronautical uses and run an airport, essentially. And then a couple years after World War II, they says, here you go, you own everything now, but you still have to use that land for aeronautical purposes. And so that difference in what we would lease some piece of land that's got a hangar versus if it was somebody coming in with a non-aeronautical use. If it's a non-aeronautical use, we would charge that higher rate that's the same for commercial or industrial in the area. But if it's aeronautical use, because of those agreements with the federal government, we do that discounted rate that you're talking about. It's just a long period, just kind of how it works. Willie, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, part of the problem is that we're limited to a land lease of 50 years, whereas the law in Oregon for non-aeronautical is 99 years. So, you know, you really have to shorten up how long you have to get a return on your investment, and that kind of drives the whole thing. So.
And McMinnville's lease rates are in line with other airports in the area, 41 or 42 cents a square foot. That's what Salem charges. That's what Aurora charges. So it's not an outlier. You're not giving away the farm here compared to other airports.